45, part 3.
I know somebody knows this. Basis 45, part 3 with Cara.
This is it. Hi, Miles.
Oh my God. Hello.
Okay, so look, this is, I've been in the United States for several weeks, and we had something scheduled before I left that I had to reschedule. And I know that at that time there were things I wanted to talk to you about, but things have happened. Things are happening so fast and so deep, and they come through me intuitively. So whatever it was that I was planning on talking to you about 7 or 8 weeks ago is just completely gone from my brain right now. But one of the things I want to say very quickly before we start, thanks to those Bases interviews, Harald and I would like to say thank you to Bases for really giving us a good start in the English-speaking world, and I mean world, in terms of dangerous imagination, silent assimilation, because it wasn't, it was a matter of days after those interviews aired that we had orders for that book ranging from Beijing to Brazil, Miles. And I think maybe you don't even know how global your reach is, because we were astonished. What? Beijing? What? Brazil?
Are you talking about a Chinese restaurant in...
No, I'm talking about Beijing. Orders for the book. Okay? I don't care who was ordering it from Beijing, whether it was the Beijing NSA or... Do you know what I mean?
You mean...
The reality was we had orders.
The Chinese don't have an agency either?
Yeah. Yeah, right? So... Thank you, Miles, because that really kicked us off in a big way.
Thank you.
Gave us an incredible amount of attention. And that book and the message deserves an amazing amount of attention. So thank you from me and Harald. And thank you, everybody who's watching Bases, who's getting it now. Okay?
And you've got the interdimensional triad.
Yeah, and they're buying it in several dimensions, I wish. No. They're all watching us in several dimensions anyway. So you will see that I have all kinds of paper here in front of me. I don't ordinarily do this. I keep saying that every time I talk to you. I don't ordinarily have all this, but I really don't ordinarily have all this. It's just that what's going on here for me, and actually, in fact, I'm writing a giant article about this right now just to help organize what's coming to me about this event. It's been about the last 36 hours. It's gotten very, very intense for me. And so I feel really happy that I'm sitting here and able to talk about it and talk to Miles about it, and we can sort of help sort it out as well. If you were alive on the planet on August 13th, 2015, then you may be aware that on that day, on the Empire State Building, a giant light show was manifested on the side of the Empire State Building depicting the head of the goddess Kali with her 3 eyes, past, present, future, and her giant tongue hanging out of her mouth. And I have to say that was kind of a 9/11 event in the United States, whether people realize it or not. I think they do, because the Empire State Building is such an iconic symbol, just like the World Trade Centers were. And to see something like that on the side of that building was gobsmacking. It was time stood still kind of thing. We really had no idea what was going on. Most people still don't. This is what's going to kick off this discussion, and it actually doesn't go where you might think it goes. The official story given, I guess we should start there. The official story given for this event was that this was a piece of art, and it was a piece of art that was put up by an artist called Louis Saihoyos. And it was meant to draw attention to the plight of not just the animals on this planet, but I suppose the animals primarily on this planet, all life on this planet, and the desperate need, supposedly, for a new avatar to protect this planet. Okay. Now, this morning, for some reason, decided to take this guy's name apart, because this is, everything is done in symbols. Everything is sort of an open secret. Everything's right in your face, but it takes just this much effort to get it, to uncover it, yeah? So I took this guy's name apart. It's spelled this way, Miles. P-S-I That's your first clue. Hoyos. Psy-hoyos. Okay? Psi, that was easy. Even if you go, oh, psi, no. That's not, it's the symbol for, it stands for particle physics. PSI stands for particle physics. Yeah? You know this. All right. And oi, or oi. That's got two meanings. First of all, I knew immediately that was Spanish for today, although I couldn't quite figure out why that would matter. But it is Spanish for today. And it's also the name of a little boat in Scotland that conveys people and goods up and down a river. Hoy. And then OS. People think this has to do with Osiris, but that's not what that is. That's operating system. Okay? OS, operating system. So you've got particle physics, a conveyance of people and goods down a river of what time? I don't know. We'll get there. And operating system. All right. Now, let me also tell you that my research revealed that the calibrating architecture for the particle accelerator inside CERN is called Kali. And there is a statue on the outside of that building in Geneva of Shiva, the consort of Kali. People do know that because it's right there. Okay? So this leads one inevitably back to CERN. Not something I've been terrifically interested in any of my research because it's always felt like a science game that wasn't ever really going to go anywhere and kind of beside the point. And the fact that people were, mad scientists were looking for the God particle, it just didn't interest me because that to me was more mad scientist sort of nonsense. Do you know what I mean? For me, it never felt like that was something that was going to affect our planet. Really, I just never had a feeling that was going to work or be a danger to us. And I don't necessarily know that I feel that way now. Okay. However, let's park that piece of business right here. Yeah. Now, I have been talking in the last 6 weeks since I've seen you in several interviews about a couple of things. And I think I actually at the micro conference started this. I really, in the end, want to get up to the top of this apex, this structure that is more or less responsible for the geoengineering, the aerosol war, and all of the other things that are going on in our environment that are, that feel like an absolute critical, fatal assault on humanity. And they are. Even if it's collateral damage, it's still a fatal assault on humanity. Okay, even if the planet is really the point. At the apex of the predators, the predation, and we have predators, at least two, it feels very much like like AI. It does. It feels very much like something that is relentless and without remorse and driven and immovable and just going forward. It feels very much like that. And however, I've always been very reluctant to call that the apex, to say, okay, well, that must be it. That must be what it is at the very top. And I'm still reluctant, even though I have all this new evidence, which at first I thought, well, okay, that's it then. AI is really, that's it. But I'm still, and I'll tell you why in a minute, why I'm still not convinced that that's the case. But wanting to know from this very top, get a bigger picture, a bird's eye view of this apex predator and why it is that our planet is saturated in aluminum, okay? Setting aside the amazingly deleterious effects on all life, yes? Why is the planet being covered, saturated in aluminum nanoparticles, as well as mercury and some other things? But what's attracting my attention is aluminum. And the reason it's attracting my attention is because aluminum affects the passage of time. We know this because of Kozyrev.
The apex predator.
Mm-hmm. At the very top. What is it? I mean, people always ask that question. You've asked me that question. Who is it? What do you think it is? I mean, It's the obvious
And
question.
you also said 2 predators.
Yes, at least. Here's what I think. Okay, let me just stay there for a minute then. What I think, what I feel is at the top of the predation pyramid on this planet is something that is very driven and very remorseless and relentless and without emotion, and yet I think probably the very best way to characterize that is artificial intelligence. Yes? And this thing with the CERN Hadron Collider and Kali and all of that, at first, my reaction was, okay, well, all right then, yeah. Artificial intelligence must be the apex predator, but I'm still not convinced of that, and I'll tell you why in a little while. But I'm like I said, let's park that over here and let's go to what I've been talking about for since the micro conference, whenever that was. What was that, May?
That was June.
June. Okay. At the micro conference, I started to talk about this idea of really needing a bird's eye view to get some perspective, to get some distance from all of the noise and the awful, the awful blood sacrifices and fear energy and terror that's around us all the time, and have a look at what's going on from the top. Okay, and when I do that, I really find myself desperately needing to answer the question, why is this planet being saturated in aluminum nanoparticles to begin with? I mean, it's really got to be coated with them by now. And I know it's in the earth. And I know that when trees burn now, and this has been going on for 10 years, there are fires underneath the trees in their root systems that the firemen can't even see because there's so much aluminum down there. And aluminum is an accelerant. So fires are still burning under the trees, even when you think the fire is out. In California, that's how much aluminum is in the soil now. So aluminum is an accelerant, amongst other things. But aluminum also has an effect on the passage of time. Dr. Nikolai Kozyrev is somebody I've also been trying very hard to get information about. He invented, there's not a lot there. What's there is now starting to come out of Russia. You can type his name into YouTube and you can come up with a couple of very not so great quality documentaries out of Russia with really poor English subtitles, but watch them. They're very much worth watching, and there's not a lot on this guy.
That's in Russia Today?
No, it's just done by Russian documentarists in Russia somewhere. Just type in his name, see what you come up with. Not tons of, not a lot of stuff.
So how do you spell that?
Kosyrev, Kozyrev. All right. Kozyrev's mirror is essentially a spiral tube of aluminum that people go inside, and they're connected to some sort of technical hardware, and somebody on the other side of the planet who's also in a Kozyrev mirror will be able to know, like for example, if one of the people sees certain symbols, is given certain symbols to look at or words, and then sort of concentrates on them on the other side of the planet, the person in the other mirror will be able to say what that is accurately. Anybody.
Can you describe what this is? What is it? It's a
technology? Transportation of, well, it's a very simple technology. If it's technology, if you want to call it technology, like I said, I don't know a lot about it yet because there's not a lot of accessible information. I'm hoping that Russia seems to be throwing stuff out now, making things more available.
Some kind of energetics, or
it is. I would say it's
scalar thing, or
well, what is aluminum? Would you call that scalar? I wouldn't.
It's just a material.
It's just a material with properties that can affect time and space. Now that's I'm not a scientist. This is all coming through me intuitively. So. Someone will have the answer to that question. You might have the answer to that question soon enough, right? But aluminum does affect time and space. It just does. All right. And our planet is being coated with it. Mercury is another thing that the planet's being coated with. We're ingesting it. I still don't know whether that's corollary damage or damage on purpose or both of those kinds of things. It's probably both of those kinds of things. But
Well, I think a particular type of mercury was used in the bell,
Yeah,
red mercury.
yeah. That's communication and time,
So,
both,
so it's
right?
transmutation of the elements, some kind of thing. But we're speculating here.
We are speculating, and that's okay. I mean, I'm just going to speculate because the appearance of Kali on the side of the Empire State Building set off a train for me, and I was talking. Okay, so I wasn't just talking about aluminum nanoparticles and mercury. I was also talking about duality. I felt very strongly that we needed to be thinking about duality right now, and one of the reasons is because we talk about the hologram that we live in, and it used to drive me crazy that we talked about that, because as co-creators, to characterize what we do as a hologram felt very not clean and genuine to me. But the reality is there is an organic hologram and there is an inorganic hologram, and a lot of us are talking about that right now. It's not just me.
Explain.
Organic hologram meaning what we can come up with, because what we create by using our imagination as the translator to the organic, by the way, morphogenic field is enlivened. We enliven what we manifest. There is life. You will see that there is life in the things that we manifest. Inorganic, there is an inorganic hologram. These things that do not manifest life, cloning, anything that's a fake biology. I don't know, you might argue with me about computers, but computers are a dim copy, replica of a human brain, are they not? These are the things that are replicas of
Harold
organics.
had certain things to say about computers.
Did he?
They're communicating
We're never in the
between
same
each
room.
other.
I never know what he's saying, but that's okay. That's all right. I often find we're saying the same thing, but
Yeah.
he's doing it in with science to back
Yes.
him up,
Yeah.
and I'm just saying it. You know, that's what's so funny. But we're almost never in the same continent. So, anyway, okay. Yes, lots of things that are around us are dim replicas of who we are and what we can do as human beings. All right. There is an inorganic morphogenic field, apparently. This is not something that I have a relationship with, but it goes to the inorganic hologram. And any entity that is able or trying to mimic creation, let's just call it that, it's mimicking creation. This is that thing I've been trying to talk about for a while now, this desire to be co-creators. We are co-creators, human beings, yes? We access the organic morphogenic field via our imagination, which is everything, and that is what the inorganic, co-creators, potential would-be co-creators are trying to get a hold of, is this our imagination. They want to use our imagination. They'd like to have an imagination. They'd like to have the ability, etc., etc., etc. Okay.
If they can get control of our ability to do that, then they can control that reality.
Right. But see, in the end, when we continue to talk about CERN and what that is, CERN looks to me now like an end run around, because they haven't been able to do that with us. Another way to
Why always
create.
talk about CERN? It's just a bunch of particle physicists
Yeah.
running around smashing matter. Nothing else happening here. Why be concerned?
Well, exactly.
And the Hadron Colliders.
There are several theories about what CERN can do, and don't get me off the duality thing. But wait, before we go, let's talk CERN. Yes, but let's talk about the other things that are dual, because it goes back to artificial intelligence. And frankly, if there is an artificial intelligence, because everything has its mirror, because there is always this duality, there is also a genuine intelligence, and that's us. Okay, so everything that you talk about on this side that's inorganic, there is an organic counterpart. This is our side of the universe. This is something else's side of the universe, this particular universe. Now, CERN. Okay. Because there's a couple of things. Like I said, this is really complex, and I'm really glad that you can help me talk through this right now. There are some theories. If you look at the universe and all of the universes, a multiplicity, if you will, as a giant book with thousands of pages in it, and each universe is a page in this book. It doesn't touch the page up or but I mean, it just doesn't interact. It's a separate page, each universe. There's this theory that one of the theories is that the scientists at CERN are trying to find a way to poke a pinhole in our page so that they can access another, just, I don't know, access, what does that mean? To see another universe?
A gate?
Figure out if they can. Yeah,
Gateway?
you know, they talk about stargates, but my question is that what you mean? Because do we even need those? They might need those. Do we need these? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. So there's that theory. But part of this also has to do with symmetry, which goes back to duality. I mean, this is something that, this idea of duality and now of symmetry, I think, is something that we really have to hold in front of us. At the end of this passageway, if you will, you have what? What's his face? What's the guy that talks about the singularity and transhumanism? Do you know who I mean? Anyway, the fellow who talks about transhumanism talks about the singularity, which, if you...
Robert Duncan?
No, I've got his name written down somewhere. I'll find it. Kurzweil. Ray Kurzweiler. Is it Kurzweiler? Anyway, he talks about the singularity, which would be what's at the end of all of this. You got the duality. You've got whatever it was that was original. You've got the duality, which ends up being sort of man and woman, yin and yang, all of those sorts of things, alive and dead, really. And then you've got a triad. That's a duad. Then you've got a triad, yeah, which is for us man, woman, child, which is something the Frankfurt School and the Tavistock Institute have been trying to destroy for a long time. At this level, where it goes down into 4, we are the numbers. We've got the triad. Very powerful. We've got, which is not binary. I mean, this is really kind of my point. We are not binary entities. We're in battle with a binary entity, but we are not binary. And they're trying to, I mean, we're being cut off right here where it's this duad, this triad. Then you get 4, which is everything, 4 seasons, yeah? You get 5. When you get to 5, you're getting into geometry. Pentagons, 5-pointed stars, things like that. And once you get into geometry, 6, 7, 8, and so forth, up to 12, which we should still be operating.
3 4s are 12.
Right. When you get down here, you're talking about sacred geometry. You're talking about music. You're talking about architecture. Architecture is just frozen music, according to according to Goethe and, do you know? We are a multiplicity in battle with a binary system. Yes? And so one of the ways to cut us off from who we are is to cut us off from 2 down and head toward the singularity. Now, this duality, maybe this is the original duality. Maybe this has always been here. I don't know. Okay, but we have to think about this duality and this symmetry. Another one of the theories that I'm reading about that has to do with CERN is that they're after light. Light has perfect symmetry because it has no charge. Anything that has a charge is material. And one of the theories about CERN is that the ultimate goal is to break light, which would be the singularity. It would be that one thing, that unity. Because once you break light...
The discussion is that do they break the protective light, the protective...
Well, once you break light, you've got a charge.
Solar system's
You've got
protection
materiality. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So are you not... And then you are what? Creating. So this is what makes me wonder if it's another end run to become a creator. I mean, there's also this. I mean, I read. This is so like trying to like hold all this as it comes through. I read that one of the things they think that the CERN scientists really just want to do is see the Big Bang, go back in time to see the Big Bang. Well, all that really did was start me thinking about creation again. And
Well, this God particle stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the Higgs boson particle, yeah? I know. But this is very complex and very simple at the same time, yeah? Help me try, Miles, to incorporate the symbolism of Kali and Shiva to this idea of the duality going to the singularity. Kali and Shiva. Kali is lots of things. I mean, the goddess of destruction is just this much of what that actual deity or symbol or impulse in the world actually is. It's also time. She is the keeper, the mover, the goddess of time. Shiva is the goddess of stillness. They're married. She dances on his chest in the symbolism. Okay? Together, they create this philosophical unity between motion and stillness. All right? They go from a duality to a singularity. It's clear to me, it should be clear to anybody, that this matters to whoever's doing the CERN stuff, because there's Shiva's, statue of Shiva in Geneva outside the CERN facility, and the calibration architecture for the collider is called Kali. So this is where it feels very much like we need to dwell and try to understand, putting Kali on the side of the Empire State Building, which is a Shiva symbol, if you think of it as a masculine, all right? Is this really just, and this, is this just a sign to people who know?
Well, they love their
that
symbols.
This is approaching.
Why do they love our symbols? Why do they want this? Why tell us?
Why tell us? Well, what does Simon Parks say? They have to tell us magically what they're doing, or the magic won't work. Number one, there's always that to think of.
But he was saying that the whole thing is to destroy our connection with Source.
I know. And there was a lot of chatter about that particular statement he made amongst all the activists. There were some discernment alerts because they felt like he was just being a fearmonger. I don't think they can separate us from Source.
And I think one commentator said God's rather bigger than that.
Exactly. So I really don't know. I mean, that kind of put him in a pickle in people's views by saying that. I've never felt like they could separate us from Source. I don't think that's the point. I think the point is this duality. I think the point is creating this mirror universe where I'm going to say they because I don't know what else to say, Miles, but where whatever entity is running this number becomes a creator.
Well, the Source may not be a big thing, but this planet, the localized force field in this planet, with 9/11 there was a drop in the magnetic field, so they can do something.
Yeah, this is important. This is important. I can feel what you're saying is important right now.
I mean, the Source might be very big, God's very big, but what we are may not be. This planet
is very, very, very important. Okay? The one of the things I sent you to put up along the drawing, was a drawing that I came across, which is another thing that got me going on this. It's this plane, XYZ axis, and you see this plane with X and Y across it, of course, and this would be our universe, and the X and Y across it would be the four corners, which is constantly coming up in my life. And the center at the middle, this point where the Z plane, the Z line goes through, is thought of as time. I don't think it is time. I think it's the space between time. It is that which is, it's midnight. It's that thing between time and space that I try to talk about. And
well, I think Harold would talk scalar there.
He might.
Something like that.
You ask him. Anyway. No, honestly, I'm sure that he could make some serious sense out of what I'm trying to say, and that's great. I've got to get him. I'm actually going to do this again at some point in a month or two elsewhere and get him and Maria Wheatley on both to talk about some of this, which I will talk about with you in a second. But yeah, okay, so look at it this way. This plane with the X, Y, and the Z going through. And then up here is this cone like that. And down here is this cone like that, joined right here at the 0 point. 0 point? God, we hear that all the time now, don't we? And this cone is marked in this drawing future, and down here it's marked past. All right? To me, intuitively, this explains why this planet is so freaking important. Because we are obviously, we could very well be this locus point between the past and the future. Yeah? And it also could explain why the poles are so darned important in this planet. And this business here reminds me of the precession of the equinoxes, the wobble of our planet. Okay? I think this is a huge clue as to what's actually going on and why. But the only way you can look at this particular clue is if you back off from all the noise they throw at us all the time, which is horrifying and horrific and real. And yeah. And the other thing is, there's two other things that we need to talk about with CERN, and then you asked me or whatever. But I did talk to my friend Maria Wheatley about this briefly, because the ley lines appear to be extremely important to CERN, where CERN is located, and how it operates in terms of energetics. And it appears that CERN is operated more from spiritual energy than any other kind of energy. This is what's being said. If you want the science behind that, we're going to have to talk to somebody else. But
Crikey, that's big science meeting spirituality.
yes, this is a big deal, and this, I think many of us have come to the conclusion and agree that we're being farmed for spiritual energy on this planet. I almost don't think that that's a question anymore. All right. The ley lines are like, oh gosh, what do you call it when it's in a stereo, when it's making things more powerful? What do you call that? I'm such a big scientist, aren't I?
Amplifying?
Amplifying, yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. Amplifying, yes. The ley lines are amplifying that spiritual energy, the negative and positive, and the blood sacrifices that go on across this planet constantly and without end, especially, well, all the time, but especially in the 20th century, feed the energy for CERN, for this collider, this hadron collider. And I asked Maria about that, thinking that she would definitely have some information. And she said, yes, that in fact absolutely is what's happening. And it's polluting the ley lines. So that's one of the things
and that's what the fracking seems to be about as well.
Yeah.
There's a common attack here, a common theme.
We need to talk we need to talk to her about this in terms of CERN, I think. Have you already done that? Have you talked to her about? Only
very briefly.
Okay.
I haven't done them. We're still waiting to do she has a special for her to do. Yeah. The ley lines, this is hugely important right now. She's going to know about this. So what was there other than that? There were the ley lines as a power generator for CERN. Yes. So I can't remember anyway. Go ahead. Do you have any? The thing is that the common thing that these creatures seem to have a problem with is Mother Nature itself.
Yeah. Sophia.
So they seem to be attacking Mother Nature. So the ley lines, the energetics, a lot of the homes where these ritual children slaughtering and things happen are on ley lines.
Yeah.
And Miriam picked up on this with Richmond Park one day.
Yeah.
So there's poisoning other dimensions. They're leaching and causing problems.
Thank you. That leads me into something else. Thank you very much for that. Yes. And then what you're saying right now, Miles, is why I don't think AI is the top predator. Because the goal that we seem to be looking at here requires emotion. Does it not? The goal to overtake another creature and become the superior, perhaps, in my view, maybe I'm not seeing it properly, but my view is that it seems that there's an entity that wants what we have, which would describe the jinn, wouldn't it? But I don't think that's what, the jinn are minor players in this
Well, I
stuff.
feel that the jinn and all those demonic beings are in much trouble with this as we
Yeah,
are.
they're minor.
This is
They're
going to
minor
affect
players. They have
them.
nothing.
Yeah.
They're not the top banana. There's something we still don't see yet. There's something we still don't see, and there's emotion involved.
Well,
There
that's
is
what Max Spears says. If you can see them, it's not them.
exactly.
We're dealing with that which is unseen.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of what we're dealing with is unseen. So that's why I think it would be very easy to see AI as the top predator, but there's the goals. The goals require emotion. The goals require drive. The goals require emotional drive. And that is not a computer. A computer doesn't have emotional drive, at least not to my knowledge. All right, so there's that. But let me talk to you. It was really interesting because I was doing this thing called the Untangled Gathering, and Harald was part of that as well, where 6 or 8 of us got together. We're invited to do this 4-hour marathon talking about this stuff. And then when we were done, after a couple of hours, there was not a call-in because
This was a radio, online radio show?
it was visual, actually. It was with Consumer Consciousness Network. So it was actually visual. And it was live.
And what's it was called for reference? People could see it.
TUG, T-U-G, look it up. The Untangled Gathering, TUG. You can find it all over Facebook now if you
Okay.
T-U-G. It was awesome. It was fascinating. So we're in the question and answer session, and I got the first question. And it was such a knock on my door, out of the blue, with all this science and stuff swirling around. Somebody says, well, can you please ask Cara, what about the elementals? And I went, because that's just a really personal knock on my door, and I thought of all the people here. That's the question you want to kick off with. But what that does is take you back to those things that are intradimensional. We've talked about this before, how strongly I feel about the intradimensional entities, positive and negative, that are around and helping us. You're an Irishman. Some of these are going to be very familiar to you when they won't be to an American. But yes, in fact, the elementals, you're talking about the sylphs. You can often see, if you have eyes to see, you can also often see them in the air trying to help clean the air. Big ones, lots of little ones, they exist. And they're undines. These are the spirits of the water. Where the sylphs and the undines meet is where weather happens naturally. Obviously, water and air. If you think about that, that makes all kinds of sense. You just have to add temperature, Undines have to do with any sort of fluid that moves, whether it's the sap of a tree or a tear that falls. And anytime there's a longing, anytime you experience a longing, this is where you'll find an undine. This is the gesture of an undine. And then you have the fire spirits. And I think most people understand that fire is creation. And you also have the earth spirits. And I don't like using their name because I think we need to find out what their original name was. The name that people use for earth spirits makes it all seem way too silly thanks to Walt Disney. But, these are the gnomes. They have other names. I'm going to find them and use them. Okay. So yes, these are real, unseen by most people, entities in the world that are attached to Sophia that do try to help the planet, okay? And I'm lucky, I guess I'm talking to an Irishman because this probably feels very natural to you because it's part of your folk soul. It doesn't feel like craziness to you.
We all had fairies at the bottom of the garden.
There you go.
Just at the end of
Well, there is, and then coming up from this elemental, and the elementals, by the way, are harmed by some of the things that happen with Wi-Fi and computer. They are absolutely harmed. And computer games, by the way.
Well, actually, that might be where a lot of it's targeted to.
Yes, computer games. I know it sounds silly, but do you know there's a woman called Marjorie Spock? Her brother was Benjamin Spock, who was a very, very famous baby doctor in the United States. And Marjorie Spock was a eurythmist and someone who could see the elementals, and she wrote about them. And she's not been dead very long. And she's the one who said that Pac-Man, when Pac-Man first came out, because that was one of the very first games, yeah? That was actually injuring the elementals. Well, You just have to be careful who you say things like.
Where's the connection there? How does that work? I mean,
I don't know how it works. I don't know how it
describe
works.
that in
She may have described it in a book. I have not read it. That was anecdotal. I read an anecdote of her saying that to people, not necessarily her describing how that actually works, but it may be written down. Marjorie Spock is her name. You could type in Marjorie Spock and the Elementals or Fairy Worlds, anything like that. That goes up to that goes up to something called the She. Do you know about the She? Sidhe. Very, very much, very Irish. These were, and I just had somebody approach me about this too, God bless her, long ago. Tessarian probably knows about this. There were a negative entity on this planet. Maybe people would call them the Anunnaki. I don't know. And then there were the She, Sidhe. And the She were slaughtered by this entity, except for a few of them, and they were bred. And there are still many, a huge percentage of human beings alive on the planet today have a portion of who they are comes from this line of the She. This is why we never can break our connection to questions like, well, ask Cara about the elementals. You know, it's in there, it's in us. The She go to the Fae, and you know the Fae. The Fae faded away. The Fae are an intradimensional force, an intradimensional entity, a hugely powerful and serious intradimensional entity that has always been deeply associated with Sophia, with the earth. They have been quiet. They went away a long time ago. That's no longer the case. They have been reactivated. They have been awakened. They have been brought to consciousness again by the attack on Sophia. Okay, so these are the intradimensional entities. I mean, I think we started talking about this because you were talking about the unseen, which is something that we have to talk about. We have to talk about all of the aspects of the unseen. We have to talk about this predator at the top that we don't know who it is yet. It's not AI.
Are we talking archons?
Archons have been around for a long time, right? Archons, this is the Gnostic texts. These are, no, they're not the same thing as the jinn. We did talk about this before, didn't we? That we thought they were really two different things. Certainly could be. It certainly could be. At the top, you mean? Or Archons versus the She? Or what are you thinking?
Whatever Harold was referring to about this alien black goo.
Yeah.
That AI, that whatever intelligence that they came across. I mean, the Battle of the Boyne refers to, is a symbol for, or the ritual ceremony about the Boyne. Is the whole point of the Boyne Valley is it's a river, but it symbolises the universe. So you mentioned a river earlier, that the whole point was some kind of thing crossing the universe. We did,
doggone it, we did. We talked about the river and the boat, hoy.
Yes, so something coming from afar.
Yes.
To here.
Particle physics, psi, the river. Oh, Miles, you're a genius. Boing! Yes, particle physics, the river and the hoy. And what was the last part of that? Oh, OS, operating system. Yeah.
Well, that sounds like an intelligent
right in front of
system.
us. Right in front of us on the Empire State Building.
The alien black goo.
So what are we saying?
Seed of life from something else creating something here.
And CERN. It goes to CERN.
CERN breaks the barrier so more things can come through.
So is this good or bad, do you think, Miles?
I think it's bad because it's dealing with something which is bringing an alien life form here, which seems to have been coming across. Why are we here in the first place? Maybe we're here as in spaceship Earth to survive from something which is a predator from afar devouring everything. So we've got to grow up now.
Maybe. Exactly.
Face it
exactly. Now. This is one of the things that I've come to start saying a lot in the last few weeks, Miles, is that we have to start kicking each other out of bed. Screw it. Enough already. Take off the gloves. It's time to the Mr. Nice Guy, this Mr. Nice Guy stuff, and everybody's where they're supposed to be. No more. I'm not. At least I'm not doing
Well,
it.
that's part of the whole New Age con.
I'm not doing
somebody
it.
Get somebody else to do it, or
Yeah.
just lie back and it'll
Yeah.
just the universe will save us.
Exactly, exactly. And this actually ends up going back to some of the other things that I've said, which is, how is it that human beings sustain themselves? This whole con of and I know you and I are probably going to disagree about this for a long time, but to me, this whole life feeds on life thing is a big fat con, all right? And immoral, all at the same time. We have people who have said, and there's one woman, I'm trying to track her down right now, a Slavic woman, she's very elusive, and yet she's put out tons and tons of material about a period of 1,000 years that was inserted in our history, that in fact, it's actually only 1015 right now. It's not 2015. And that 1,000 years was inserted because it was a history that was manufactured to justify the reign of the rulers that are in place right now. As a manufactured justification for the set of rulers that is in place right now, which Thomas Sheridan says they're all the Prussians, and we've talked about the Prussians as well, that every ruler in existence right now is part of the same Prussian family. Anyway, so there it is. I think it's bad too. I think it's bad too because I will always keep coming back to what seems to be my job, which is this primary message of the imagination. That seems to be my part of the puzzle right now. Is this idea that we have an we have an artificial intelligence and we have an authentic intelligence, because you always have the mirror of each other. You have to have symmetry. You must have symmetry, even when it's, even when it's out of balance. It's trying to find its balance when it's out of balance. All right. This is us. We are the authentic intelligence. All right. We have the organic hologram, which is what we create. And it's okay to call it a hologram when we talk about what we create, because it's enlivened. It's what we're supposed to do. We know what we're doing. This isn't solid. And we know it's not, what we materialize is not permanent. We know that. But it is enlivened. And we, for lack of a better way to put it, we have a freaking driver's license that allows us to do this. Okay, this is our job. This is what we do, and we do it on this planet. Some people say this, especially I can't remember who was saying it on this untangled gathering that we were just a part of, but they were saying that Sophia, this planet, is here to heal the negative energy. It is a negative energy healer. This is the cosmic entity came here to heal the negative energy. Whatever is going on with this planet, we are at the center of something very important and cosmic. Okay, and us on this planet, we are also very important and cosmic. And that, I think right now and part of the reason that we're tying it together now, Miles, is because for some reason they have to let enough of the cat out of the bag. For whatever reason, like Kali on the side of the Empire State Building, they must now put these things out there. And some of us, those of us with a lot of Fae bloodline or She bloodline, or are more likely to be awake and be awakenable and be able to see these things and translate them. Translate the symbols. I have a book that's sitting on my back. I keep talking about this if I ever have time to write it, that has to do with the symbols that we talk to each other with and what's being hidden from us in the bowels of the Vatican and things like that. So, and a lot of this information is readily available to us, but it's being destroyed through, what's going through all these wars. These in the Middle East. The Middle East has been absolutely decimated and destroyed, and that's sacred knowledge. And
well, that's been going on a very long time.
It has. It's being destroyed, though.
We keep the conquistadors destroying so much in the Americas.
Mm-hmm. So that we can't find it, Or they hope we can't find it, but we can find it.
But those symbols are only representing a truth. If we find that truth, we don't need the symbols.
Right, and we can see the symbols. See, I just got this kickback to Kozyrev and his aluminum mirror and the symbols and the transmission of symbols. I'm not really sure why. But we can see these symbols. These symbols are, oh God, it's like Shiva and Kali. It's the inside and the outside together. Yeah? The symbols are in there and they're out there. Okay, so they can hide all of this from us if they want to, but they're also in here. Do you see? At the same time. They're in, it sounds New Agey, and I'm not New Agey, and I'm not trying to, but, yeah.
What do you mean by in here?
Well,
in our DNA,
I mean...
in our consciousness, in our collective consciousness?
In our collective consciousness, yes. They're in the field. We talk about what's in the field all the time. The Ur. The Ur. I've said this word before. I love this word. The prototype, the original symbol, the, maybe the unity of everything that we manifest. Maybe that's a way we could talk about Ur. Maybe everything that we manifest has a unity, and it is Ur. Yes. Okay. And this could also actually go to how it is that we sustain ourselves. Because if you recall at the microconference, I talked about a study in Saarbrücken wherein it has been absolutely demonstrated scientifically that we utilize 25,000 units of energy in and out of our bodies every day, which is photonic. This is light. This is light, Miles. Okay, so let's look at this. If we have the Ur of everything that we manifest here on the plane, and the Ur is a singularity, and we process photonic light, are we breaking, I don't like the word breaking, but are we breaking light in order to create charge, which creates a material manifestation? Is that one of the things we do?
I think Harald is talking about our biophotons. It seems to be light energy here.
Does it sound like what I just said? This is why we do stuff together, Miles. This is why we do stuff together. We will all often be talking about the same thing, but he does it his way and I do it my way. And that's really demonstrable when you watch me do something like what I just did. He'll go, oh yeah, yeah. In the science, he's very calm, cool, and collected about it. And the science, and I'll go, wait, and it just, But a lot of people, this is a very human thing that you just watch. We can all do that. We all do that every day. It's a very human thing. You just have to have the guts to do it in public and not care what anybody says about it. That's really all that is. And I invite everybody to have the guts to do that all day, every day. This is radical thinking. Only what it really is human thinking. Yeah? We can all do that.
Yeah, plug it into source.
So I like that, though. See, I've never been able to, as you know, because I've tried to do it on your show several times, I've never been able to put a definition to my word Ur. I've always just said, look, I can't tell you what that is. It's German, but I love it. And it's just the original of the original of the original of the original. All right. So now, somehow all of that will connect to the Hadron Collider. Somehow it will. Somehow it will connect to getting through this, creating enough energy and by the way, taking that from us spiritually to punch a hole in something and break light. Break light. Isn't that interesting? Break light, because light has perfect symmetry because it has no charge. Oh, Harold's going to be so proud of me. The science. Oh my God, the science. Yeah. And when you break light, you give it a charge and you have material. You have materiality. So do you see those two things? Oh my gosh.
Well, we're coming up to the end of part 3.
Yeah, you better stop.
So we'll have a tea break
Can I have some cake?
and some cake, or more correctly spelled cake. But it's interesting that near here there's a little village called Ore.
Is there? Is it O-R?
It's O-A-R-E.
O-A-R-E. Interesting. And Ur is U-R. Or. It is interesting. Well, look, this is what you put Kali on the side of the Empire State Building, and things are going to happen. People are going to start thinking or reacting or freaking out because a lot of people are simply making the association between Kali and the Baphomet statues that are popping up all over the United States. To me, this is a different aspect of the whole thing. It wasn't where my thinking was going. So, so now we just have to have a look at this. They're doing something on the 23rd, aren't they, of September at the Hadron Collider?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what. They've also talked about, I don't know anything about it really, but they've talked about having manifested ungodly levels of heat in the collider recently, like 400 times.
I think
The
they've
heat
had
of the sun
a
or
couple of
something?
blowouts, but I mean, Simon Parks did put that on his website.
Did he?
Yeah, but I think that's basically it's the CERN or the Hadron Collider website.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know.
Okay.
I'm sure people can look that up, and we'll take a break.
Take a break. Well, that's really, unless you want to ask me questions, which I may or may not be able to answer. That's really what I wanted to tell you today, is
Fine.
that I'm putting this article together and sorting my thoughts out now, and speaking out loud with you during this interview has really helped me continue to plow this furrow. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much indeed. It's great to see you again, and it's been a few weeks since the last one, so this is a couple of months, in fact.
Yeah. Yep.
And I hope you've been having a wonderful summer.
I am. I'm having a good summer. Are you having a good summer?
Yeah.
I am having a good summer. I am back from the United States where I visited my children, and I've also, while I was away, I've been trying to convince Miles here to do some work with me, and I'm very hopeful.
Yes.
I think we're going to do some stuff
We'll
together.
do that.
And also I have my own show on Consumer Consciousness Network starting next week, which you should watch right after you watch Spaces. Right after you watch Spaces.
Well, thank you very much indeed. And blessings. And we'll join the music out.